Hello. Okay, so this was just too good of an example for me to pass up in terms of trying to get people to understand what's going on in your throw. I hope it is beneficial to you as well as everyone else ever. Let me start by saying that every time I comment on a post that Henrik has commented on, I completely 100% always agree with everything that he says. That guy has never been wrong in the I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years that I've been on the site. So his advice is always very sound. I think this patch of ground, being as loose and dirt as it is, does definitely impact how you train. Options for making that better, you seem like you might be handy. Put in patch concrete. If that's not outside of the scope of your skills and finances, that would be super cool if this is your home and that is the place you practice all the time. By the way, absolutely stunning landscape that looks similar to places I've been in Wyoming. Not sure where you're at, but it's a cool spot. Anyways, enough about me. Let's talk about you. So what's going on in your throw? What I see is your hips are spinning without the help of the ground. So your front foot, basically the not necessarily friendly way to say that is that you are throwing off of your back leg. And the way that I would explain that is people talked about like your timing is off, you're starting your throw before your plant leg is down. Yes, that is correct, but that's not a particularly useful cue in terms of how to fix it. So your movement is very good. You have a highly functional throw, clearly. But you're not going to get to elite level consistency and elite level distance until you learn to throw from your front leg, which you're not doing it. So there's your maximum hip coil. That's absolutely lovely. Everything is in great shape here. I don't prefer this off arm position, but there's nothing wrong with it. When your off arm is that wound up behind you, it tends to punch through too much, which doesn't help you learn how to use the front leg. That's the only negative about it. There's nothing wrong with it otherwise. But here your position is exceptional. And then take a snapshot of where your hips are at this moment. So if we drilled a hole through your hips and put a dowel, see if I can draw a good line, put a dowel through your hips, it would be that way. Or if we were nice and didn't want to drill through you, we just have you hold a broomstick, like put a broomstick, I cannot speak, through your front two belt loops, so it would just stay on the front of your belt line. It would be there. Then we're going to imagine how that broomstick shape turns in space as you turn your hips. So now your broomstick is here. So before it was, where was it? It was this way. So your hips have uncoiled, and this front foot is not on the ground yet. It is touching the ground. It is not firmly established on the ground. What did I do? Facebook. Clicked once, now you're all wonky. Okay, we can do this. Okay, Zuckerberg has been appeased. This piece of software will now do what I want again. Thank you. Okay, so this isn't on the ground yet. Your toe is down. Your heel is not down yet. If I clicky pause you forward, then your heel comes down. So your hips are just spinning forward, and they're doing that because of this. So there's seconds ago, instants ago, you had this really good coil in your hip. That is coil. Like your glute is going that way. And then that goes away there because you're driving off of this. So we could call that extending your hip. So let me flip you around for an instant. So throwing that way, you do a really good job of coiling into that hip. So you're here. Then the twist in the hips happens because you're straightening that. So this is hip extension. This is your hip flexor, this little tiny muscle right here. This is flexing your hip. This is extending your hip. So you're extending the hip to cause hip rotation. Your hips are twisting because, boom, that works out to 350 for you. You look athletic, maybe 400 feet if you're good. It will not get you farther than that. It cannot get you farther than that unless you have exceptional coil or athletic whatever. But that's not the best way to throw in my experience, because you can only, pushing on the ground, you need your power curve to go faster and faster and faster and faster. So you can be speeding up, but then eventually you're going to run out of time to speed up. And as fast as you can fire your leg, it's not going to be fast enough to accelerate your hips more. If you do your hip rotation on the front leg, so if you instead are getting down into this heel and then firing this leg, extending this knee in a way that the leg plane stays linear. So this is what we want. We want this to stay linear. Boom. So I'm everything, my hip is pointing that way, my knee is pointing that way, my toe is pointed that way. This is where my leg is good. If I was going to do a single leg squat, I would do it here with everything in plane. If I wanted to do a single leg squat like this, I would blow up tendons in my knee. Tendons, ligaments, tendons. Because of this twisting, I'm not loading them evenly. If I keep them here where they're in line, where my hip, my knee, and my toe are in line, then I can load my knee ligaments correctly where the weight is evenly distributed, and it would be theoretically possible for me to single leg squat 300 pounds like that. Don't ask me to do it. It's not a thing right now. But that is what you are asking your front leg to do. So because the rotation is starting here from this hip extension, so your hips are rotating off the back foot. If instead we left that hip rotation to only be caused by the front, specifically the front heel pushing into the ground, straightening the knee, and instead of extending that hip to straight, we want to be folding that hip. So what you do is just a twist. So you end up with your front hip pointed that way, front knee pointed that way, and your front toe pointed this way. This is the do not pass go position. So you're making it work because you're relatively young and athletic, and you know, your body knows that this foot can't stay facing that way. It's got to pivot. But you are putting a bunch of torque on your knee, which is not safe long term. So I would recommend getting this figured out so that you don't have a repetitive stress injury over time. Not that I think if you're in any catastrophic risk of that or anything. But see how far the foot is behind the hip? The foot is here. You've rocked onto the blade edge of your foot. So foot points that way, hip points that way. That's not a good thing. It's not a sound athletic position. So you'll just play the whole thing so you can maybe see some of that. So your foot gets stuck, which is not good. Oh, farther. So there's kind of a couple things we want to do about that, in my opinion, in the way that I coach. It's getting long. Apologies. So the way I put people through one leg calibrations, I'm trying not to call it a one leg drill anymore because it's totally different from other one leg drills. So in my drill, your leg is locked, your toe is turned back about 30 degrees to align your hit point before your aim point, before your line you're trying to hit. Here, with this leg static, that's a stand-in for an active brace, which would be more forward. Now the power is not coil in my rear hip going away, but it's coil in my front hip showing up. So this hip angle is closing, and that's creating the hip torque. That hip torque is created by momentum down the T-pad being converted into rotation by stopping on the front leg. So that does scale beyond 400 feet because I can use my momentum to create more hip torque by translating it with force from the ground. That creates compression. So you have a push and a pull. You have a push from momentum and a pull, my front hip getting pulled back that way by the ground, pushing on it. You have a push and a pull. Instead of here, you just have a push and there's no pull happening. So you have two legs worth of power, if you will, instead of just one leg of power. The front leg works better. Both legs work better. So I won't talk my one leg drills to death, but it's all on the channel. If you want links to it, I can get you that. But just search for one leg on my channel, Trebuchet Disc Golf, and just watch everything you can in reverse order is probably how I would recommend it. But what this set of drills does is it shows you what throwing from a linear front leg looks like. What you're used to is throwing rotationally off your back foot on a rotating leg that's just trying to not get hurt. So when you learn how to throw here and learn how to get some compression and extension, so everything is bent and then extended. All four limbs go from bent to extended, 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 and extended. That's humans like to do the same thing with all their limbs. So you go from open to closed to open. When that works, then you're throwing with your whole body instead of just one hip extensor. Yeah, so I'll stop there, but that's what I see happening in your throw. So TLDR, you are throwing off your back leg, and we want to learn how to throw off our front leg, because when you have that, then the ground contact from the front heel can actually accelerate the hips in a way that is not possible with throwing off the back leg. Okay, ask questions if you got them, and good luck, sir.